Welcome to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, your daily dose into the health and wellness world.
Welcome back to the Recommended Daily Value Podcast, where we dive into everything health, fitness, and nutrition related 5 days a week in 5 minutes or less. This podcast is brought to you by Umzu, and I'm your host, Tyler Woodward. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because today we are talking about why humans are not herbivores. While humans likely evolved from herbivores, as virtually every animal has, it's pretty obvious that we are not meant to be herbivores, meaning exclusively eating plants. So here's 4 reasons why. Number 1, humans have one of the most acidic stomachs across the animal kingdom. Besides for carrion eating animals, aka scavengers like vultures, humans have pretty much the most acidic stomach. This implies that our ancestors' introduction to meat was at least in part through scavenging dead animals, just like vultures and hyenas. The stomach is where the majority of physical digestion occurs, and it's where the majority of protein is broken down into smaller constituents for digestion in the upper intestine, which also implies that we likely digest a lot of animal protein, as plants are not nearly packed with as much protein compared to animals. Number 2, we have a massive small intestine. The small intestine is where the majority of our digestion and nutrient absorption takes place, meaning that our digestion largely relies on our own bodily processes, including the production of digestive enzymes, stomach acid, etc., not on the fermentation of food from bacteria in our colon. Which brings us to point number 3, we have a tiny colon. Compared to our ape cousins, our colon is a fraction of the size. The colon is where our bacterial microbiome resides, and the reason our colon is so much smaller is because we eat predominantly easily digestible foods, or prepare our food to make it more digestible through cooking, soaking, or sprouting it. This is in contrast to apes who eat large amounts of indigestible foods like leaves and bark, but rely on the bacteria in their colon to digest it into short-chain fatty acids, among other nutrients. This is why we can walk around with a six-pack, while apes have a massive gut despite being relatively lean. Number 4, animal-only nutrients. There are a number of nutrients that we rely largely on animal sources to acquire. These include things like vitamin A, as retinol, creatine, carnitine, choline, heme iron, B12, D3, and generally protein. Vegans have been found over and over again to be deficient in certain animal-based nutrients, like creatine, and low levels of creatine has been linked repeatedly to things like depression. Another example is that humans have a very hard time converting beta-carotene to retinol, and we tend to not be able to produce an optimal amount of many of these other nutrients and rely on our diet to consume adequate amounts of them. Well, that's it for this episode, so remember to mix in some meat with your fruits and roots. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to share it with a friend. And remember, these opinions are my own based on my own research and experiences and is not medical advice. Till next time, be good.